We're back doing the ups and downs, and I'm really happy and excited because I bloody love this series, and I miss you. When I don't get to do this in, week out, I actually miss you quite a lot. So, thank you to everyone who's here with us now, thank you to everyone who watched the ups and downs for Picard and for the previous series, and I hope you're going to enjoy it going forward into this one. Strange New Worlds has returned, and I am delighted. One, because I just love having new Star Trek, which makes me very happy. But two, I particularly like Strange New Worlds. So let's dive in to Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 1, The Broken Circle. I want to start things off really quickly. Let's give an up just to Strange New Worlds being back. I don't think anyone really, everyone knew the season 1 would be good, but I don't think we really expected it to be as good as it was. Possibly went a little overboard with the ups on the first and last episode. I was excited, damn it. The fact that it's here, season 2 has arrived, absolutely flipping delighted. And of course, what we see come back straight away is those gorgeous visuals that we have been used to seeing throughout all of the first season as well. We open up with a pan down Starbase 1, which I just think is really cool. You've got those drone ships flying past, again, really cool. And then we get to see a few ships moored up. There's one that I'm going to go into a bit of a discussion about a little bit later in this episode. So, you might think he's like, there's 4 ships there, he's only talking about 3. So just bear with me. We see an Archer class, which was introduced in the pilot of Strange New Worlds. And we see a Farragut class that we saw last in Equality of Mercy. And of course, we see our gorgeous, gorgeous Enterprise. Lovely to see it, lovely to have it back. We're all very, very happy. We know that season 1 ended with the cliffhanger of Una being arrested after, of course, it's revealed she's Illyrian, she's gone through genetic engineering. Whoopsie doodle, that's a bit of an issue. That is right there in the beginning of this episode. Pike is speaking to Una over subspace about what's coming up next, what's happening. She seems to be, it almost sounds as if we open up with her going, listen, my career's over. You know, this is done. Don't trouble yourself, Chris. And of course, Chris is just like, cute story. So he's gonna leave the Enterprise for a couple of days to go and seek out a lawyer who he thinks might be able to help Una. You know, they talk about, okay, this is gonna remove you from the ship, there's stuff going on, you shouldn't go. So Pike is actually not in this episode very much, which was a bit of it was a choice for the pilot of the second season. However, it does give us plenty of room for Ethan Peck to step up in this episode. And I have to say, I really, really like Ethan Peck in this episode. Like him a lot in season 1, and we've seen already that he can handle emotions and still get that very Spock-esque exterior. I do love that exchange between them where Pike says, you know, you won't even have to take her out of space dock. What could go wrong? And Spock effectively just goes, what is your human idiom? Famous last words. They get a distress call, which is coming from La'an. And, you know, straight away Spock's like, right, okay, we gotta go and help La'an. She's one of the crew. And April flatly denies it. We were a bit conflicted with this one because his reasons are that, you know, the distress call is coming from a planet that is under Klingon jurisdiction. So, right, that I can totally understand. She's on a leave of absence, so basically she's on her own. And I thought, that's a bit harsh. If I'm on holiday from Trek culture and I send a text in asking for something, I would like to think that I wouldn't get a response with, well, you know, you're on your own, Sean. I don't know what's running across the bottom of the screen right now. Probably who said you could ever take a holiday. Yeah, that's fine. It does lead me up to my first down of the episode, though. And it is a biggie. And this down is stealing the Enterprise. Now, you might be like, what's the problem? Think of what a big deal it was in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, that Kirk steals the USS Enterprise. I mean, it was a big deal. There's a whole set piece about it, you know, reversing out of space dock, the Excelsior's coming to chase them down. This leads over, of course, into Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, with the loss of the Enterprise. This is one of the charges that is placed against Admiral Kirk. It's a big deal. Specifically, disobeying direct orders of a superior. Now, this is a big, big thing. Here, you have Spock very willy-nilly deciding to steal the Enterprise to go after Seán. Now, I am not suggesting that we just abandon crew members. Could they not have taken a shuttle? The fact that we went to 150 straight away, and the whole crew is seemingly on board with it. Yes, they do say some of the crew is away on shore leave, but, you know, it just seems like, oh, so there's no real stakes then, is there? Because we're just going to steal the Enterprise. However, again, flipping back, what it does do is it gives us a chance to get introduced to the new character for the season, Commander Pelia, being played by Carol Kane. She has us laughing because she is an engineer whose team has been working on the warp core for the last 3 days, and she hears the siren going off, oh, warp core breach imminent, and she's like, well, no, there isn't. And she goes up to the bridge and she's like, there's no warp core breach coming. So what she does do is she's just like, so you're trying to steal the Enterprise? And then, you know, Spock's like, oh, wait a minute. She's like, nah, like, Vulcans can't lie. What's going on? This sounds exciting. Sign me up. I don't love the stealing of the Enterprise as a plot point, but that's not to say we don't get good stuff out of it. And I do think Pelia's eagerness to try something exciting is definitely a plus from this episode. Like, I'm very happy that we got that. They warp away, and I have an up down here. Seán is in trouble. Starbase 1 is like, get away from the Starbase first of all, and then, you know, what's going on. April knows that Spock has requested the Enterprise and turned him down. So we're gonna stop and go, so what's your thing? That was a down from me. It was very shoehorned in. Very, very shoehorned in. It was like, right, we gotta stop, because it felt like a trailer moment. And when we did the breakdown of the trailer, we enjoyed it, and it was lots of fun. And now here's my up down. My up is what Spock says. You know, Ethan Peck nails the delivery. I would like the ship to go now. Very fun, enjoyed that. But stopping the action to be like, what's your thing going to be? I thought there's other ways they could have done that. It ties back in a little bit to what we were talking about with Picard Season 3's last episode, when the Enterprise G, thank you Mike, was about to warp off and Seven's about to say something, nothing. So yeah, it was like, we get the joke, let's move on. As we're on our way to Kojitar, we are going to be introduced to something that just, I think we're all in agreement. There's an upcoming now in a moment. Spock in this episode is learning to deal with the emotions that he let out after the events of All Those Who Wander. And you can tell he's really struggling with this. And, you know, I understand that sometimes, you know, you let out some anger and you're like, what do I do? You know, he's working with Mbenga to try and figure this out. There's a great exchange, it's like, this has to be an up, is Mbenga goes, you're just going to have to learn to live with them. And Spock, without missing a beat, goes, no, I prefer not to. I know I've given Ethan Peck all of the ups this week, but yeah. And of course, then tease this whole, clearly he and Chapel are like, in love. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, great exchange, great scene. We get to the planet and we see the return of the gorgeous vistas. Again, I cannot heap enough praise on the visual art that goes into Strange New Worlds. Even the opening credits, there's a few extra scenes now in there which are gorgeous. We fly through the planet, it's stunning, and Klingons. Oh, and it's the redesign. Yes, I really like it. Now, what I will say, now there is one Klingon in this first scene, and they're very Discovery Klingon era inspired with the hair. Check out the scene. They're literally sitting at the next table beyond Seán and her drinking buddy here, which I thought was good. Like, that's fun. Have it a bit like the Romulans. You've got the ones with the head ridges from the north and the ones without from the south. Do something like that, and then you don't need to worry about things like going back to Enterprise Affliction, and we had to do the whole augment virus, which is why some of them have smooth foreheads, and so on and so on. Just have people evolve differently on the same world. Also, it's an empire. They're on different planets, you know? So, anyway, still delighted to see this design of Klingon, this redesign of Klingon back. We obviously analysed it to holy high heaven when the trailers came out as well. We were just overjoyed because it looks like as well, when you take into account their uniforms, there's definitely holdovers from Discovery era Klingons into this closer to original series era Klingons. Speaking of Klingons, we see an awful lot of Mbenga and Chapel in this episode. And there's a lot of talk of the trauma that's left over from the Klingon War. Now, that's something that's set up in the previously on. We know it's been set up, of course, in Discovery with how the Enterprise was kept out of the fighting. I have a logistical down, which is where they're talking about this drive to reignite the war. And Mbenga says something like 100 million Federation bodies slaughtered, and for what? A couple of parsecs. And I thought, 100 million? I mean, holy crap, that's a lot of dead bodies. You think there would be a bit more discussion about that. And it's just sort of thrown out as a number. 1 million? I mean, any death is terrible, don't get me wrong. But like 1 million, I think, is a much more believable number. 100 million, we're talking the annexation of planets. So that one, logistically, that one stood out for me. But Bab Zolosumikon is fantastic. From the first scenes where he's with Spock to where he's down on the planet and then he's trying to treat the people being poisoned with ion poisoning, he's working with Chapel, then he's brought to the Klingon mines, technically Federation ship, to treat the Klingons, and you can see this quiet pain and rage inside him during all of these scenes, because of course he fought in the war. A couple of throwaway lines about how he has been affected by what happened, by what he had to witness. It's intimidating just how much he is like basically vibrating with anger. And I just thought he was absolutely fantastic. As of course is Jess Bush in this episode. They make a great team together. Her take on Chapel, now again, watch any of the ups and downs for season 1 and you will see me basically in love with this take on the character, because Chapel was a very underutilized character in the original series, so giving her so much more to do works very, very well for me here. Plus, she's an absolute badass. You know, when they are taken to the Federation or faux Federation ship and they, inject themselves with basically the super soldier serum, I believe it. It doesn't feel like it's just been shoehorned in. It doesn't feel forced. From what we've seen from the characters at this point, this works for me. I said I was going to come back to one of the ships, and that is the one that we saw, the 4th ship, in Starbase 1 in the very beginning. Initially, what I took to be something inspired by the NX-01 design, I had to do a bit of a double take, because I thought, hold on, those nacelles are upside down. And what I mean is, so basically, if you think of the back of a nacelle, it's like that, right? That's the angle, not that. When we see it in Starbase 1, we see this NX class, I took to be an NX class, and yet, looking closely, you see the nacelles are like that. And I went, does that mean it's upside? Oh, jump forward in the episode, and we get the reveal of what they call a crossfield class. Crossfield class is, of course, Discovery. That's what a crossfield class is. And you see that in the saucer section. So I'm fine with that. I'm just like, look, they obviously, in the spirit of the episode, it's supposed to be stolen Federation technology. It's the Broken Circle working to reignite the Klingon War. It's a cobbled together starship. That I'm fine with. The fact it's designated crossfield class, I'm fine with. Problem for me is that in that opening scene, it seems to fill out the number of ships there at Starbase 1. They took the files they had on hand, which I don't blame them for, but they stuck the crossfield class in that scene, flipped it upside down, and basically just copied and pasted it. And that's a down for me. Because even when the Enterprise is leaving, it's not there. Oh God, it stuck out. It stuck out for me. Crossfield class, as we see it leaving the planet, the nacelles are dipped, think Miranda class, or maybe Akira class. When we saw it at Starbase 1, it was inverted, so again, think NX. But NX stands out, because this is a sequel to Enterprise. Like, we've been hoping for kind of Enterprise nod. So that, to me, that was a down. For ship ups, D7, absolutely love the Discovery and Strange New Worlds redesign of the D7. I think it looks fantastic. It's completely evoking the classic design while modernizing it. Where it was green in Discovery, it's now taken this sort of the gunmetal grey that we're used to seeing as well. I love it. I absolutely love that ship. Darn it, Chris, I'm sorry. I forgot to give you my Latinum up. As you can see, I've been very distracted. My Latinum up is, of course, the return of the D7 ship. Sorry, Chris, me again. So I have a Trellium down. It's the stealing the Enterprise thing. And I actually really enjoy the exchange between the Enterprise and this Crossfield class ship, trying to stay out of sensor range of the Klingon D7. I think it works. Again, we see fantastic performance from Ethan Peck, who's trying to marry, we have to save the Federation, and I don't want Chapel and Mbenga to die. And you can see in that moment where he orders torpedoes to be fired, he thinks he's just killed them. And a powerful moment. Back on the ship, like, they're kicking 7 levels of crap out of the Klingons, and it's really, frankly, it's quite enjoyable, and I don't know what that says about me. But yeah, it's well handled. They jump out into space, which actually I buy. Like, you see sometimes it happens in any space, like, oh, we'll just nip into space for a minute. And I was like, no, Omega says, oh, you know, it's going to suck, don't get me wrong, but we might survive. And yeah, it works, and you get that great shot then of Chapel passed out on the transporter pad and Spock coming in. And this is a very emotional Spock, and I do think they need to be careful here. I think it's handled very well in this episode, and we know that the Spock we meet in the cage was a little bit more emotional anyway. We are allowed to have that journey, maybe a faux Kolinar between now and the original series. He's a bit more emotional in where no one has gone before, where no man has gone before, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yep, absolutely works for me. Chapel, it survives, and Mbenga survives, and then Spock and the Klingon captain share a barrel of blood wine together. That's an up. Again, Ethan Peck. Ethan Peck showing subtle comedy. Absolutely enjoyed it. There's a great exchange between Spock and Pelia, which was just a lot of fun, and she talks about the boredom of long life. It is, of course, not lost on anyone that the idea of Lanthanites living alongside humans and coming out, I don't think that's lost on anyone, really. I like that. It's subtle, and also it isn't at the same time. And I think, as well as we're in Pride Month at the moment, I really think that's quite deliberate. Really, really works for me. And then, of course, that scene where you have Spock talking to Admiral April, and he's got a hangover. I mean, a Vulcan with a hangover? That's new. Really, really enjoy that. And now, look, I could say I'm disappointed April didn't do more, but I've covered it. The whole stealing the Enterprise thing for me, in general, just didn't really work. And to be fair, they do say, like, you were a bit light on him, weren't you? And he goes, well, we kind of need all the ships we can get in case this war kicks off, setting up what seems to be one of the big stories of the season, which is an upcoming war with the Gorn. The last up I'm actually going to give at this point comes just after the end of the episode, and it's a beautiful tribute to Nichelle Nichols, who of course passed away last year, and it's stunning for Nichelle, who was first through the door. Hailing frequencies always open. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That is an up from me. Now, I have been thoroughly waiting to say this. Would you join me, please, at Cetacean Observations? Those drone ships that we see flying past Starbase 1, we actually saw those before as ships controlled by Control in Star Trek Discovery. We see an Archer-class ship, we see a Farragut-type ship, we see, of course, a Crossfield-class ship, which we've already talked about. The original series Alexander Courage theme plays. We see a saddle in Pike's quarters, of course, reminding us all that he's an avid horseback riding enthusiast. Behind him there is a painting of the NX-01. I swear they are teasing me with the NX-01 here. Spock gets his Vulcan lyre in this one, so this was very, very, very fun. Pelia references Amanda Grayson, who is, of course, Spock's mother. Klingons, just in general, Klingons. We see that Klingon mug, which we know so well from Next Gen, DS9, even Voyager. We see an Orion is standing watching the drinking happening. That Discovery era Klingon that I mentioned as well. There is a female Klingon who is effectively the one to kidnap Chapel and Mbenga. And if you look at her style of speech and also her design, very Kalar, isn't it? There is a great scene where Uhura is there translating Klingon. And of course Uhura can translate Klingon, but I still think it's a bit like that scene in Star Trek Into Darkness where it's a nod back to Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, and Nichelle Nichols of course had been so annoyed that Uhura wouldn't be able to speak Klingon. Oh, that D7 arrives again. There's a Tellarite at the drinking session at the end as well. Spock's got 3D chess in his quarters, and of course, we're gonna see the Gorn. That's everything for our episode this week, folks. Let us know what you thought. Do you think it deserved more ups, more downs, less of both? Let me know. Remember, you can get in touch with us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can get with myself at Seán Ferrick on all the various socials as well. Don't forget to check out the wonderful Chris at EditChrisEdit on both Twitter and Instagram. And you can get Trek Culture at TrekCultureYT on Instagram too. Folks, as we head into the second half of 2023, which is a weird thing to say, we would love to aim for 300,000 subscribers. We're actually pretty close because you are so awesome. So please, like, share, subscribe, help us get the message out there. You are awesome. You are what makes this work. Folks, live long and prosper till I see you again. Make sure that you're kind to yourself. Make sure that you're kind to others. Lead with love and happiness. Our friends in Ukraine, Slava Ukrainia, everyone. Have a wonderful week till I see you again. Make it so.